Oh, here she goes. I told you, it wouldn't be long before that one. Oh, gotcha. It's right in the middle of the weed. Look at this. Right in the middle of the weed. Yep. Dower fight it's going to be because it's just solid in the weed. But that just shows that you put a little rod under the trees in the most unlikeliest spots. The amount of people that want to cast to the centre of the lake or right over the far side, and I've literally caught that 3 yards away. Look how far it is out. And it's stormed away, and I've got loads of weed, and he's going to head into the lilies now. So I've got, oh, there she is. Oh, she's a decent fish as well. Oh, I know which fish she is. She's a full-scale mirror. I've been watching that the last couple of days, feeding that spot, and she's been coming in. First fish, she's been coming in. Oh, the weed's just covering her head, and she don't know where she is. Look. Come on, my beauty. Come on. Yeah, she's 20 pounds, she is. Yes. That's it. Look at that. Yes. Oh. Well, 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 hey? My little stalking rod. All the fancy gear. Haven't had a run yet. And look at this. Straight in the mouth there, lovely. Straight in. Take it out. Take her back to the swim. And weigh her up. Let's have a look at her. Oh, look at her. Look at that for a fish. Ooh, bonny kipper. You beauty. She's about 21, 22, 23 pound. Look at that. Absolutely magnificent, eh? That's what carp fishing is all about. A beautiful day and a beautiful carp. Let's go and weigh it up. I told you about that one. I knew it would produce. All on its own, all away from everyone. And there we go, look what we've got. An absolute cracker. Oh, look at this. Putting out the boilies. Look at this. This mucus. That's from the winter. It's even still got that slight sheen to it from the winter on its head. That will all disappear within the next few weeks. Right, let's weigh her up. 21 and a quarter. Okay? 21 and a quarter. What a cracking start, eh? Whew. Couple of hours into the session, and look what Desi's got. Julian Cundiff, eat your heart out.
The start of another day at Woodpecker's Pool. I've done this 1,000 times in all parts of the country, and I never tire of this great sport. Every session holds something new for me, so join me now for a couple of days on one of my favourite pools. As you've already seen, my session here got off to a great start with the arrival of a cracking 20-pounder. But don't for 1 minute think that it was just a lucky fish. It was the result of careful planning and, more importantly, picking the right swim.
So let's look at the swim. The swim out there, I've got 2 markers. Can you see them? There's one on the right there, the green stick, and one over on the left another green stick. Those are special markers that I've had made, and I'll explain those later on. Now I've baited those 2 spots, and I've also baited in a tiny little spot just down the bank. Now one of the nice things recently that we've been able to use 4 rods, what I've done, if you're allowed on the fishery, is just to put another rod in another swim. Obviously if the water's packed then you can't do this, but it's a favourite little trick of mine to catch a big fish, and I'll show you how I do that. Now before I go into the other swim, let me just explain that I have got the new Fox DXRs, which means that if I do get a run in the next swim, that's going to bleep. Okay, now let's just explain this thing. I'm not going to go hundreds of yards from my swim, and I'm not going to go over the other side of the lake. I'm certainly not going up the pub, but it's a very sociable thing that if you want to pop in to see a mate, or you want to put a rod in another swim just a few yards down the bank, then you've got this to tell you if you've got to take back in the main swim. Okay, use them for what they're for, and that's just a few yards away from your main swim. Okay, let's show you the swim. In between my main swim and my other swim, where I've got 1 rod in, which I'm leaving all on its own, is this shallow area here. You can see this small-leaved lily, which attracts a lot of fish, but they spook very, very easily, and it's not an area that I would set up a main swim. I'm after sort of just popping in opportunist fish, just popping in occasionally through the day, see if there's some fish in, and then we'll see if we can sneak one out. But just come round to the swim where I've got the rod in. This is the swim, if you remember, that you saw the 21 pounder full scale mirror, beautiful fish, and this is how I caught it. And take note of this simple trick, and you'll catch a lot of big fish by this. Now this very shallow area, you have to be very, very, very quiet. That's a problem when you're doing this sort of thing. I've just spooked off a bird which can frighten every fish in the area. Now you notice I'm coming away from the lake. Don't walk right onto the lake. Walk away. And here's the next swim. It's about a 10-second run. There's no problem at all. Obviously, if this was a well-fished day ticket water, then you can't do it. But if you're on a water where you're allowed to do this, and there's very few people about, then this simple little stalking rod, all I've got is a simple little stalking rod, tiny rod, doesn't stick over the water, and all I'm going to do, later I'll show you the setup that I'm putting on here. I'm putting what is called a Snowman, and that's a sinking boilie and a floating boilie, and I had that 21 pound fish Monday using this very method. Now the strange thing about this, and I really do laugh when I see people on lakes, is they come into a swim like this, they set the bivvy up, and the first thing they want to do is cast 200 yards, 100 yards, whatever, up the lake. This is a beautiful swim for just dropping a bait literally 2 yards out. Let me just show you where I will put this bait. Now if you look just round this corner, just here, if you look just here, right, we've got only a foot of water here, 18 inches. Now believe it or not, carp in excess of 30, nearly 40 pound will be in there. I'll show you up in the tree in a minute. Now all I'm going to do is I will put my bait there, right, just there. I'll get a handful of boilies like so. Watch where I've thrown it in, and then throw a handful of boilies on it. Then all I'm going to do then is clear off and leave it. And because there's no one here, there's no one talking, there's no one moving around, cups of tea, etc., etc., all the normal things that you can't help but do when you're fishing, you're not in the swim. And believe it or not, you can have fish come right in here, right in these margins here. The amount of times that you can be asleep in your bivvy, or you know, sort of very early morning, you're dozing off, and you suddenly get up and you spook these fish off. Now, if you can get in a swim next to where you are and put just a single rod in, you can actually catch these fish. Now, that 21 pounder you saw, the first fish that we saw on this film, I'd seen that for a couple of days up in the tree, keep coming in. That very same fish, laid the trap for him, but had I been sitting here with a bivvy, he wouldn't have come in. I just run around the corner, bingo, got him. And that's what we're going to do again. See if we can trap an even bigger one. Let's climb up the tree and I'll show you what you can see from up the tree. If I can get rid of this tangle. There you go. We'll set that up in a minute. And hopefully catch you a big fish on that rig. I'll explain the rig and the setup after. It's just the principle of what I'm selecting the swims. You can actually see now, if we look this way, look at the distance from this peg, because I've just come around the corner from mine. Can you see the marker there now? Right? Now, a lot of people would have fished this peg, put a marker out there and would have been casting 100 yards. Can you actually see it out there? And yet I caught a 20 pounder and it could have easily been a 30 pounder right in the side here. But I'm fishing the main peg at distance and I'm fishing this peg in close. Only do it if you're allowed. Okay, let's have a look. The amount of fish that you can see from a position like this, and you can see the swim. Don't move quick, just move very slowly. Anything you do, as long as you move slowly, you can actually stand up in a tree and actually watch the fish. You can actually look if your bait and your rig is actually in a clear spot, because there's a lot of weeded areas, and although they will take it from weed, it's nice to have it in a clear spot. But I can see all over the lake here, and I can see fish. If fish start coming into the area, even in my range swim, I can see fish from this vantage point. And you can start to see patrol routes. When you're at ground level, all you're doing is looking at buzzers, and you're not really understanding the lake itself. If you can get up to a point like this and look over the lake, you can see fish where they patrol. You can see them coming round by the shallows, around, they'll go back out into the centre lake. The important thing is you're trying to find the table, the dining table. You can see them in all parts of the lake, and remember this, it doesn't matter how large the lake is or how small the lake is, that there'll be areas where they'll visit and there'll be areas that they eat. You've got to find the areas where they eat, and you can put pockets of bait. Other anglers may help you, you know, anglers will catch fish from swims regular, and you'll know where it is, and it's sometimes best to fish those areas and find new areas yourself, which I've found on this lake. But without doubt, carp won't eat in every area just where you put bait. There are certain dining room tables, and you need to have your bait on there. Now let me get down without breaking my neck. Right, back to the main swim. The setup that I'm using is very simple, very basic. You can get in any carp shop anywhere in the country. I've got a rod pod, which saves me putting a number of rod rests into the ground. It makes it a lot easier to set up. I've got 3 standard bait runner, bait feeder type reels, which gives that free spool pull off. Okay, I've got the 3 standard buzzers, which a number of companies make them. The swingers, I tend to use Fox swingers all the time. And the 3 rods. Now, a number of companies, lots of companies make excellent carp rods. I'm not going to give an advert for carp rods, but what I would say is, one thing that I've noticed over the country is a lot of people are using rods that are much, much too powerful for the venue they're fishing. On a venue like this, 2 and 3 acres, then use a 2 or a 2¼ pound test curve rod. As you can see, over the last couple of days, I've landed fish in excess of 30 pounds on these rods. Right, I'll just show you the marker. I've got 2 bricks that makes it very rigid in the bottom of the lake. I've got some hose here that you can get from any aquarium shop or pipe shop. Then we've got a cane from any garden centre. with it fixed securely into there. Now the advantage over standard markers, whereas you've got line coming up to a float, is that if a fish catches it, what happens is it drags them through the swim, and it's got every chance that it will drag into every one of your lines. What we've got here, if the line hits, if there's a fish running away and the line hits this marker, it just folds over, pings off, and away it goes, and then back comes the marker. And obviously that happens the other way, or whatever way. It can just fold out the way, and as soon as the fish pings off in a way, up comes the marker, so you know where you're putting your bait again. That's what I've got out there too at the moment. Now let's show you what I've got out on the marker, the rigs and the baits. Let's reel in. Reeled it in through weed, which has messed it all up, as you can see. Now what I'm going to show you over on my chair is a problem that a lot of people seem to have with boilers, is they say, well, if boilers are different sizes, how the hell do we make sure that we're the right distance away from the hook? Well, that's what I'll show you now. I'll show you what we call the knotless knot, and that will help all of you tie a perfect air every time, whether it be a pop-up or whether it be a standard bottom bait. Follow me over to my chair and I'll show you how to do that. Now what I've done here, I've put the boilie onto the braid. There's the hair stop, and then I've passed the braid through the eye of the hook. Now wherever I want that, just set it, okay? So there, just at the shank, the back of the shank, like so. Now all you need to do is revolve that round and round and round down the back of the shank, like so. Then when you've done that, all you need to do then is pass that back through the eye, and there you have the knotless knot. There you go. Lovely. Smack on, just how we wanted it, okay? Then what I'll do then is I'll get some rig glue and just touch it, blob onto there, which will secure it, make sure it won't come undone. It won't come undone anyway, but it does give me a sense of security. Now what I also do is I like to get a difference between this and the hair, the main line and the hair. Some people use a heavy braid and then a light line hair. What I tend to do is use the same, which I've just shown, and then just run a little bit of super glue about 1/2 inch up to there, like so, which will give that a stiffer feel just there than that. So it reacts different, and I find that that makes it easier to hook the fish. Right, this is the little margin rig that I used to catch that 21. So simple, it's unbelievable. I've got 12-pound Pro Gold line, which the abrasive qualities are absolutely unbelievable. I think there's something like 5, 10, sometimes 20 times more abrasive than most lines. So it's fantastic for fishing weedy swims like we're fishing. Just a simple piece of silicone that's passed through a buzz bomb and then pushed onto a Berkeley swivel. I know there's lots of fancy rigs, and I'm not condemning the people that have invented some incredible rigs, but in a swim fishing in close, it only needs to be this simple as that 21-pounder showed. It came in and it took a very simple rig like this. There's nothing complicated at all. It doesn't tangle, and it does produce. It's a semi-fixed rig. What happens is, if you see that silicone's pushed onto that Berkeley swivel like that, and what that makes is fixed, that makes the fish hook itself, and if it gets stuck anywhere or you break off, that will actually pull off the swivel. Okay, I've got a short piece of Supernova braid to a carp hook. This one in particular is the penetrator. Terry used this penetrator to a hook, which I've had a lot of results with over the last couple of years. Okay, and there's the hair tied on with a knotless knot that I'll show you later on. Now the bait that I've caught all fish on so far, actually, not just that one in the margins, was a Kevin Maddox wild strawberry, which they seem to love. a great deal. So what I'm doing, the Snowman rig I caught the fish on is a floating boilie, a pop-up, threaded on first, then a sinking boilie on second, onto the hair, like so. Pull it through carefully. Like so. And then what I do, and that's why I use this solar needle, is you've got the needle at one end and then you've got the hair stops at the other end, which makes it very convenient to find your stops, because if you're like me, before this came out I was always just losing my stops. So there you go, pull that tight, pair of scissors, chop that stop, pull that up tight, and there you go. Now what I'm going to do now, sometimes, depends on the buoyancy of the pop-up or the size of the sinker, sometimes you can get it to pop up just off the hook. It hasn't on that one, as you can see, it's too buoyant. So what I've got to do, if I don't put a shot on or putty, that will come straight up off the lead. So what I'm going to do is, I've got a shot here, I'm just going to put it on. I'm going to put it near the hook first to make sure it sinks it. Yes, it does perfectly. And now I'm going to set it at the distance, which is about 2 inches. Right? I always use a shot on braid, whereas I use putty on nylon. I always think the shot can damage nylon, but it won't damage the braid. So I tend to use shot on braid, whereas putty on nylon. Okay, let's have a look. Oh, that's a brilliant setup, look at that. Now that'll be sitting in the swim like so, and then all I'll do is, let's create the situation that'll be in the swim. The boilies will be around it like so, and old Carp122 will come in he goes. And that's what that 21 did, and let's hope a 31 will do it next time. So I'm just going to swing this out into the swim. There he goes. Look how close that is. And I'm going to throw a few boilies around it. Like so. Scatter a few round as well. And then bait runner on, like so. Onto the buzzer, like so. Through. And I've just put this drop back on, just in case it comes back, just to give me an indication. And there you go, sit. When that picks that up, bingo, that produced the first fish. Now we'll just leave the swim, leave the rod all to itself, and over the next couple of hours, hopefully we'll have some decent carp move in and pick the bait up. Let's go and set the other swim up. Come on. So here's the rig again, exactly the same rig as I used in the margins, but I've just lengthened the tail a bit. Here's the shot for the pop-up. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to get my pop-up, and the pop-up I've had soaking in a strawberry flavour. There you go. It's a hook bait dip, and I'll leave them in overnight, so that's soaked with strawberry. Even looks nice enough to eat, doesn't it? So there, we'll shove that through there like so, and then we'll put that through there like so. Pull that through there. On with the hair, like so. There you go. Smashing. Chop it off, and there you go. There's the hair. Okay, let's just drop it into the water. See if it's sinking it out like so. Oh yeah, lovely, look at that. That's smashing. That's cocking that up a treat. That's lovely. Now what I'm going to do now is I'm going to stick, let's just dry that off a little, because if I don't dry it off, it's going to melt my stringer before I put it on. Now what I've done with the stringer, to get more flavour out the boilies, look what I've done, I've chopped the boilies up. Because you can use the boilies out the bag, and they're great as bait, but if you want to release more flavour, just chop them up. I just bite them in half like so. Okay? Now what I'm going to do is just put them on like so. There you go. Okay? Perfect. Tie a knot in there so they won't come off. Like so. Cut off the excess. Like so. I've lost a couple actually, doesn't matter. There you go. And then into there like so. Push those up like that. And there you go. Sling that out like so. That'll melt. And we'll have some freebies by the pop-up. So what we're going to do now is put that lovely little bit of grub right out to that marker. 10 foot either side in a 10 foot circumference is great. That's lovely, right on the point where they've been eating, that is. That's lovely. Now what I'm going to do now, because the water's so clear, I'm putting this back lead, which is just a lead that slides down the line, and you can put it on the line by that, just a crack in the plastic. Okay? Don't use them too heavy. There's numerous sizes. I tend to use the lightest one that Fox makes. Okay? Here we go. Click it onto the line, like so. Holding it up. Now look at it run down. Holding it up so it keeps running down, keeps running down, keeps running down. There it goes, look. There it goes. Plop. Now let it sink to the bottom. Now it's taking the line to the bottom from there, from the actual back lead to the rig. All the line is going to be lying on the bottom or across the weed, which stops the problem that if we were direct from there, direct to a tight lead, we'd have lines showing right across clear water, which if fish are trying to come across the lake, what happens is they see these lines, you wouldn't believe it, how line looks like in water, and they just come, spook away, and away they go, or they work over the other side of the lake, and that's because you've got taut lines. In much heavier water, much more heavier coloured water, there's no problem, but in clear conditions like this, where the lake is as clear as a bell, then back lead. What I'm going to do with this one, exactly the same rig again as the other two, but what I'm going to do on the other marker, I've got the strawberry boiler here, but what I'm going to do, I've dried that off, there you go, and I've got a little bit of Vandenine paste. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to spread that over. Gives it an extra bit of flavour, but it also, that will drop off, slowly dissolve, and leave a nice flavour around the boilie. This is also a good way if you have problems with paste sticking on. Then there you go, there's the paste, just mould it around the boilie. That's perfect. Okay, look at that. So what we've got now, let's just plonk it in there. You've got a popped up boilie with some paste around it. Absolutely perfect. That will dissolve and give some nice flavour around the boilie. It's a method that's caught a lot of fish over the last couple of years. Give it a go. On the last one, Exactly the same rig again, but this time I've got a homemade fish meal boilie with some Kevin Maddox squid boilies to chuck out on the stringer, and that's what I'll be baiting up as well with the squid. All very simple rigs, but all very successful. Now let's put that one on the marker as well. That's a nice, one hell of a run, right on the bait. First one that's come on the bait, and it's going to be a good fish. Raised itself up on the marker as I hooked the fish. Just have to drop this one. Just boiled on the surface. Looks a good fish. It's fighting like hell. Oh, look at its tail. Proper woodpecker, pool fish, proper job. Come on, my beauty. This feels a very good fish. Feels a very good fish indeed. This might be the one that we've come for right out the blue. It's been dull all morning. I was expecting a run, but typical for this pool, just right out the blue. Just when I thought, well, we'd definitely catch one. Oh, look at this. Just when I thought we'd catch one, when it was nice and dull, we don't have a thing. And then, all of a sudden, now, it's gone as bright as hell, and we've got one. And it's a good fish. It's a very, very nice fish. Look at that coming across the surface. That's the back lid, look, coming down to it. Oh, it's a lovely fish. Mind you, that's not much of a statement. They're all lovely fish in this pool. Come on, my girl, come on. Look at the boilie on his nose. Boilie right on his nose, look, right on his nose. Come on, girl. Come on, girl. Yes. There we go. A beauty. Oh, it's a beauty. Look at this. That's over 30 pounds. What a beautiful fish. Right, let's just break that line. Look at that. Beautiful creature. Now then, let's see what we got here, eh? £30 4 ounce. Yeah. Oh, there you go. Crikey. £30 4 ounce. Look at the size of her. She's busting. Let's have a look at her. Oh! Oh! Do you want to have a look at her? Oh, look at the size of her. Oh, an absolute cracker. The methods, they catch any size. Nice and simple, but look at the fish they catch. Right. Oh, there she goes. Come on, my girl. One last look. There she goes. Oh, look at her go. Oh, look at her go. Well, normally, if I get in this sort of mess, I'm pig sick. But look at this. Although I'm in a mess, I've just landed a £30 mirror carp, so with that 20 and that 30, I'm well pleased. I want to put another bait on, see if I can catch an actric. Let's have a go. I'm going to tell you now about the ultimate pre-baiting bait in carp fishing. It's the ultimate, and you should all know about it. It's no great secret. It's in this pot. It's hemp. I use bags and bags of it through the course of a season, and when I say bags I mean 56-pound bags. I use it for barbel, tench, carp, and what I do for carp and barbel especially is I leave it in the sun like this. I just keep topping it up with water. And you see this milky water that comes, and it starts to go sour and it starts to smell a little bit, and that, when you drop it over the side of a boat or your Angling Techniques bait boat or whatever you're going to use to get it out there, your spudder or whatever, this is the ultimate. This thing has just nearly pulled the rod out my hand. The take was incredible, and it's took me right to the other side of the lake. It's either one of the very large carp or one of the catfish. It's a very, very large fish. I mean, crikey, look at me rod. Oh. If it's a carp, it's one of the very big fish, nearly 40 pound. But I've got a feeling that taking the initial power, I've got a feeling it could be a carp, it could be a catfish. Whatever it is, it's one hell of a big lump. It's now coming towards me, but it's decided to come towards me. There it is. There it is on the top now. I think it's a cat. I think it is anyway. Let me just drop my rods down here. Whatever it is, it's a big fish. A big, big fish. Big fish. You know, I think it might be one of the carp. Big fish this is. Christ, this is a big fish. No, I think it's a cat. No, it isn't. My God, it's a carp. And it's got all the lines on it and everything. I think it's a big fish though. Christ. Big, big fish. Gotcha, you devil. Yes. This is a big fish. This is a big, big fish. This is a proper fish. Oh, look at the size of it. My God, I don't think I'd have bought him in that shallow water then. Oh, it's a big fish. Good God. Good God. Oh. Oh, look at this fish. What a scrap. It's the big leather. Boy, did that go. Boy, did that go. Oh, how about that, folks? Woo. Oh. Oh. I've got line everywhere. I've got a rig here. Here he is. Look at that, perfect. You can see what he's been caught on. Kevin Maddox, wild strawberry boilie. I'm absolutely soaked, but who cares? Look what I've caught. A beautiful fish. Absolutely. Oh, look at that. A cracker. Okay. I'm going to give myself £30 for that. Exactly £30. Oh, Christ me back. You want to have a look at a proper fish? I'll show you the proper fish. Let me show you a proper fish. Oh, is that a proper carp? Hey? A proper carp. What a beauty. What a beauty. Oh, thank you, Lord, for that one. He's looking at one happy man. One happy man. Look at that. Have a look at him. He's not smiling as much as me. It's a Brahma. Oh. Beauty. You beauty. I'm so pleased to catch this for you. Whoop. Steady, girl. The lads just want to have one last look at you. There you go. There you go. Let's return her. Oh. Let me get her out the coloured water. If you're treading the water like this, get them out the coloured water. He's fought really well. Oh. What a fish. Look at the back of that. Look at that. Ah. Incredible. Bye bye, old fruit. Yes. Oh. See what I mean about this dirty water? You return them in the dirty water, then they just keep sucking that in the gills. So I've had to go beyond that dirty water just to get clear water going through his gills, and then away she goes. You leave it in here, it can get lost in here, you can't see it, it's pulling all this silt in. They can actually die, so it is important. Just hold them around the neck of the tail, and then when you feel the power, they start getting the engines running and off they kick. Well, well, well. 230s. Well, the weather has changed now. It's about 75 degrees, where I think it was like -3 2 days into the session. What we've got now is a situation where, although it was colder, the fish were down on the bottom and they were eating. Now I've got fish roaming just under the surface and roaming round, so they're not eating at the moment. But just down by the side of these reeds, there's a few fish, and they're always sort of near the reeds. Sometimes there could be small fish, sometimes whackers. But what I'm going to do, save just sitting here, I'm just going to put a float on. I've got a rod and reel back in the car, go and fetch that, and just nestle down in the reeds and see if I can catch a fish or two. Okay? With this heat, and the way it's looking, I can see odd fry jumping around. I reckon the cats could feed tonight. I might have a go for the cats.
Well, the float fishing didn't produce anything, but at least I got something right. The catfish have decided to come out to play. I've moved up into a deep hole near the dam end of the lake, where there's a load of roach fry. I had a feeling that the predators in the lake, which are mainly perch and catfish, had herded them up there, and they're getting careless. Within 10 minutes of casting out, I've missed a run, but not to worry. Next chuck, I'm into this one. I can't believe my luck. I'm into another one, and this one feels a right lump. When you're playing a big cat, remember to take your time. You're using heavy tackle, and so let that do the work for you. When it wants to run, unless you're in a snaggy area, let it run. When it starts to tire, pump that rod.
There it is then. 31 pound of cat. Oh. Look at that. A beauty. That's a beauty. Caught 11 o'clock at night. Little live bait. Right in the shallows. Right in close. She was in there, a treat. Look at her, beautiful, beautiful fish. Shall we put her back? Let's put her back.
You're on your own. You're alone.
Well, I hate to say I told you so, but they did feed. At least an 18 and a 31 fed, so that was great sport. What I'm going to do now, I'm going to go back to the carp gear and set that up and sling that out for the last couple of hours. But I'll just reel these in and just show you the rigs that I caught those catfish on. Just two very simple rigs. There's a lot of rigs, but I'll show you the two simple rigs that I used last night. This is the one I call my small fish rig, or my small bait rig, because this is the one that actually caught the 30 pounder. Very, very simple rig. What I've got, oh, bait's come off. There you go. I've got what we call in the trade as a fledger, which is line to a bomb, then right up to a very, very buoyant cork ball. When you're pike fishing or cat fishing, the amount of people that use a nice little tiny poly ball and does nothing. As soon as you wind the line down back to the indicator, it just tilts over. This is so big and so buoyant that it keeps it up there. Now what happens now is there's just a bead to a swivel, and then onto some 40 pound Quicksilver with a fixed poly ball there with a couple of rubber float stops to stop it coming down, and one above so I can set it at any distance from the hook, and then the bait on the hook, which has fell off. But you'll notice that there's a plastic, an elastic band that I just clip onto the after I put the bait on to stop the bait wriggling off. And that's basically it. There you go, on the bottom, and that's swimming around like so and diving down, swimming round, and suddenly catfish comes along and pow, got it. This is the second rig, and this is one that I usually put slightly bigger baits on, and you'll see why. Because on this one, I've incorporated 2 large balls. So what we've got is the same fledger. Willis Tattle does these. I think he's the only one that does them. The only one that I've seen them available is called Willis Tattle, and they're absolutely super bit of gear. They actually keep that line off the deck. Same 40-pound Quicksilver. Then when I've got a large Willis or Kevin Maddox hook, one of those two, I use either of those 2 hooks. They're both as good as one another. And then what I come off with is a thin piece of braid to another ball which I've fitted a swivel inside. And what happens then with this rig, if we just bring that back to you, imagine that sitting on the bottom like that, and then that fish, you can either fish that right on the top and that swims around then, or you can bring it down a little. I'll show you how I work it now. If we cast it out, you'll notice this on the top, and very often, as I did last night, there you go, just let the line out and up pops the ball. You see the ball? Can you see the ball? You see the bait working? That is an absolute fantastic rig for big catfish. In one way, it's always sad when a session comes to an end, but when you've had 3 30-pound fish and a couple of other fish to go along with it, well, I'm going to have a nice warm feeling on the way home, and I guarantee you tonight I'm going to have a few beers, might even have a packet of scratchings to celebrate. So all we've got to do now is just pick these markers up, and you can have a last look at woodpeckers. Nice thing about this lake is when you do lift something off the bottom or disturb it, there's a very, very fresh smell. It's not that stale, silty smell. That clayey bottom is a beautiful, fresh smell to it, which is unusual really on a lake like this, surrounded with trees. Normally the leaves over the many years that the lake's been there has decayed and makes silt and becomes rather a smelly, there we go, rather a smelly bottom, but that's not the case here. This stuff, look, this stuff actually smells quite fresh, beautiful. There you go. End of the session, folks. Hope you've enjoyed it as much as I have. Catch you next time.